Yo, what's good? You already don't know what it is. It's your girl, Just Kimmy, I'm out here. If you're new to my channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're already a subscriber, wagwan brethren, you already don't know. I appreciate all the love and support. Oh, well, obviously, I do not need this while making this video. So what I'm going to be doing in today's video is I'm going to be telling you guys how I am currently doing in Korea during the coronavirus outbreak. And I know that many of us, if not all of us, are dealing with this global pandemic, and I'm making this video partly because a lot of my friends and family have been worried and been asking me about, my well-being here in Korea at the moment. And as it stands, you guys know that this kind of situation is changing daily, literally daily. A lot of people were worried about me being here in Korea, but now, literally like overnight, it's flip-flopped. Now, a lot of us, like the expats here in Korea, are really worried about our families back home in their respective countries, like Canada, US, or the UK, or Italy, And it actually took me a while to make this video because, like I said, everything changes every day. The facts change, what's happening changes. Like, it's just a day by day type of topic. And I think the best way I can kind of collect my thoughts with this topic of COVID-19 and what's happening in Korea is splitting up into 3 parts. And that is my first initial experience with it. So the first time, I've been in contact with, it being like, oh man, this is real, this is really happening. And then at a point when the virus started to outbreak, so we knew about patient 31, so the super spreader. And then I'm going to talk about how I'm dealing with it, or how we are dealing with it as expats here as teachers, what's going on in that aspect. So the 3 things will be the initial contact, with the experience with the coronavirus, after the super spreader in Daegu, and talk about what's going on with teachers here in Korea during the coronavirus. The coronavirus spread started when I was back in Canada and when we started getting news about China. And in Korea, the cases were very minimal. I think it was at 10 at that time. It was very low, nothing to worry about. I was not taking it serious whatsoever at that time. I was still back in Canada, on vacation, but time was approaching for me to come back to Korea. And at that time, my friends would tell me hey, you know what? There's no masks here. She said there's no face masks, so you should bring some from Canada. So I did. I brought a box here and I made sure I had everything. So I came to Korea with Lysol wipes, face masks, and hand sanitizers. And that was, simply off of recommendation from my friend. And still at that time, I was just thinking, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. And I feel like that part of me, I felt like I didn't want this to be a big deal. Right now, I still kind of wish that it didn't have to come to this. Nobody wants this, It's just not a good thing to be dealing with everyone, it's a global pandemic. So my initial response to the coronavirus was, I was one of those people without a doubt that said you know what, it's not that serious. But as we know today, it is serious. So when I initially arrived to Korea, on the mainland, everyone was wearing masks in the airport, and I was the odd one out because I was what mask? It's not that serious. You guys are being so dramatic. It's not that big of a deal. So at that time, it still was Korea still only had about 10 or 15 people that were infected. My friend was telling me a lot of things were sold out. So face masks were sold out, hand sanitizers were sold out, and any kind of cleaning products, bleach, Lysol, Clorox, were all sold out at that time. Me, I haven't really experienced it because I wasn't going out trying to find these things because I was still kind of taking it it was not serious. It wasn't a big deal. As time went on, things started to close down very, very slowly. So it was kind of like a social rule, like don't go out into public, wear a face mask, like wash your hands. At this point, it wasn't like in your face. Like like in your face, like the government wasn't, sending out all these texts and wasn't being informed a lot. I mean, it was there. It was out in the public that informed by the government that you should wash your hands and take all these precautions, but it wasn't that serious at this time. Like during the initial of this happening, this was like kind of like 3-4 weeks ago. When I first came back, so taking the bus and taxis, pretty much a lot of the taxi drivers wouldn't take you unless you're wearing a face mask. All of the buses wouldn't take you unless you're wearing a face mask. It was still kind of like that social rule. Like if you're in a public area, you should wear a face mask. And as the time that I was entering Korea, if you've come through any country like China or any country with a lot of high patient numbers of coronavirus, you have to quarantine yourself for 14 days. And during this 14-day quarantine, you had to update the government with your symptoms through an app. So it asked you if you had a cough, if you had a fever, if you had this and that, and you had to click yes or no. And that's how the government took, charge of knowing kind of the status of the people who came from these countries with highly infectious people. And, they were on the ball. They were very much on the ball. And before I go on any further, I just want to say that, Korea is doing an absolutely amazing job, trying to keep this spread to a minimum. It's absolutely fantastic. They're very fast reacting, and the government is just literally on it. They're doing everything they can in order to keep everyone safe, like Korean or non, or not, you know what I'm saying? Initially, it was kind of hard being an expat, being a foreigner here in Korea during the coronavirus, because I found that during Korea's initial response, when it was still, the numbers were low, below 30, there was kind of a little bit of a stigma to foreigners. Like, for a little bit, it felt like Koreans felt that only foreigners were kind of transferring this virus, So I can only speak for Jeju because that's where I live. So in Jeju, a lot of the Chinese populated areas were the only places that shut down at that time, during the times where it was just under 30 patients. And so all the Chinese heavily tourist places shut down. Chinese people were kind of frowned upon and kind of had that stigma of like, you guys have the virus. And along with that, I think all foreigners kind of got clumped into that kind of view. So for example, I went to watch the women's qualifying soccer match for the Olympics with my Korean friends. There must have been about 10 of us, and just only 2 of us were foreigners. Everyone else out of the 10 were Korean. So in order to get into the stadium, you had to wear a face mask and you had to use hand sanitizer before, and we kind of walked through these cameras that took our internal temperature. But there was one more step in that they only did to foreigners, and that was literally checking the temperatures in our ear. They only did that to people that were non-Korean. So everyone that was not Korean specifically got their temperatures double checked. And you can say that it was not a big deal, but at that time when this wasn't that serious, you're kind of thinking like, why are you only checking my temperature specifically and like not my 8 other Korean friends, And I was just thinking like, man, that's kind of messed up, but it is what it is. Also, the initial response, a lot of restaurants would not serve anyone if they weren't Korean. Unfortunately, that happened. And I've actually had a friend was very upset and wrote like a whole Facebook spiel about a restaurant not letting him and his wife in because they were not Korean. So you had to have a face mask to go into the restaurant. He had a face mask, but they wouldn't let him in because she just kept on pointing to a sign. And pretty much the sign said they won't be serving any foreigners, only Koreans. So that did happen. But like I said, it is what it is. Some people panic over toilet paper And then sometimes things like this happen, and that still doesn't take away from the fact that Korea as a whole has done absolutely amazing during this time. So I'm gonna talk about after the super spreader. You guys might have read about it on the news or like online about Patient 31. So Patient 31 was a member of this church called Shincheonji. I think it's Shincheonji. Yeah. And in Korea, this church, Shincheonji, is often referred to as like a cult. I don't know too much about it, so I'm not going to get into it. If you would like to know about it, it's all over the internet. It's all online. So pretty much Patient 31 came in from China, and she was supposed to go through the 14-day quarantine, but instead of following the specific instructions from the government, like they had everything set up for people coming in and out of the country, but she didn't follow it, and she ended up going to church, and she ended up going to a buffet, and she ended up going to like all these places and infecting like more than 500 people apparently. Well, because of her, it led to like an infection of like 800 people, and it just kept on getting worse because the members who got infected from this church were kind of embarrassed, or they didn't want to come forward because it would expose them as being a part of this church. So that is how the spread happened. And this spread all happened in Daegu. So right now, predominantly all the patients that we're dealing with here in Korea are in Daegu. Right now in Jeju, we only have 4 patients, and I've heard that 2 of them have been recovered. So we're technically at 2. I heard that is as it stands right now today, Friday, that I'm making this video. So, you know, at this time, things were getting real. You know, the numbers literally in a blink of an eye, overnight jumped from like 30 patients to like 600, literally overnight. And that's when the whole like, oh, man, this is real. Like, it's here. The virus is here. And everyone just, you know, started taking a lot of precautions. And just as fast as the numbers rose overnight, just as quickly the government took action. I swear to you, it took like a day and everything changed. They got a restock in face masks because it was out and there were long lines for face masks. What I mean, my friend told me that her parents in the mainland waited like an hour to buy masks, and it was just ridiculous. And eventually what started to happen was that you can only buy a limit of 2 face masks on your specific day of your birthday. So they kind of made it so nobody has to wait in line for very long. So you go on your day. My day is Friday because my birthday ends in the number 0. So like if your birthday ends on the number 0 or 5, like your year, you can go on that day. And my day is Friday, so I can buy 2 masks, and that's how it is. Like I said, the government has been acting so fast and efficient and quickly. Another thing that they have been doing ever since the super spreader is we get these emergency texts. Anytime there is somebody infected in our area, we get a text, and it tells us exactly where they went and what time. And they also disinfect these places, and they're closed for like however long it takes them to disinfect it. So that's really good because we can avoid those areas if at all, or like just don't even go there at all. Like, you know, there's no reason for you to go there where someone was infected. So that's really good. Literally overnight, there are TV commercials, there's ads, there's banners, there's posters. Even the little lady on the bus is telling us about proper hygiene and washing our hands and wearing masks and stuff like that. And now at this point, a lot of places, tourist places, are closed, concerts are canceled. You can't go to a lot of public places without masks. A lot of restaurants, you have to wear a mask. On the bus, you have to wear masks. On the taxi, you have to wear masks. Like everything. There's literally hand sanitizer everywhere. Like, I don't know where Korea got all this hand sanitizer from, because before all this, I don't know, like I never really saw hand sanitizer anywhere. But now there's literally hand sanitizer in the taxi. There's hand sanitizer on the bus. There's hand sanitizer on the bus shelters, like on poles. There's hand sanitizer. Like, I don't even know, man. If you can see it, like if you can look on a wall, there's probably hand sanitizer there. It is just literally overnight, fast acting, crazy. So alongside with the hand sanitizers being absolutely everywhere, at the entrance of major buildings, they have the thermal reader thing where it's like the thermal camera, where it takes like your body temperature. And that's in like hospitals. I've seen it in banks. I've seen it at some major like companies, let's say like Samsung. I've seen it at the entrance of some like big department stores as well. So a lot of precautions are being taken in order to make sure that we're absolutely safe if we do go outside. And like I said, although I am living in Jeju with only 4 cases, Jeju itself is taking, the same precautions as it is on mainland. We are still kind of locked down. A lot of things are closed and we have to wear masks everywhere. So it is being taken very seriously, even though the number of the coronavirus patients are very minimal. So now what I'm going to be talking about is how the coronavirus has affected teachers. And when I mean how it's affected teachers, I mean specifically like job-wise. Right now, currently, schools are closed, and they've been closed for about 2 weeks, and they've been closed for 2 more weeks. So it's going to be a total about 4 or 5 weeks the schools will be closed. So we're currently looking at an open date of April 6th, and I still have to go into school. So there are no students at school, but I still have to go into school. And you know what? As much of a bummer that is, I'm still getting my full salary. And I mention the full salary because a lot of people who work at the hagwons, they're either getting a certain percentage of their salary or not at all. So I've heard that some people are getting 70% of their salaries because they're not necessarily doing as much work as they were before. And the ones that aren't going into work at the hagwons aren't getting any paid. So it's not a paid leave. So that can be very hard for a lot of people. But I'm fortunate that I do work for a government funded program, and we are still getting our full salaries even though we are going to school and there's no students, and we're told that we should prepare lessons or find something to do. So I think that just brings up a good point, that if you do go to work abroad, that maybe you should look for a government funded program, because it will ensure that you're more covered in situations like these to still get some sort of salary. It's not up in the air. My school has taken a lot of precautions. So before the coronavirus, you were able to just go in and out of my school very freely. But now, in order to get into my school, we have to use a security system to open the doors, and that is using our fingerprint in order to open the door. So we put our finger on the fingerprint machine and it opens the door and it unlocks it. And when I go into the school, I'm greeted by several teachers, we all have to wear a mask to enter the school. So we're all wearing masks, and I'm greeted by several teachers. One teacher is taking my temperature, and they record my temperature every day. And the other teacher makes sure that I use the hand sanitizer provided at the entrance of the school. Also, I have to record that the time that I got into school and the time that I leave school. So they're keeping track of everyone coming in and out of the building, and also their temperature, because, it's serious. There's children in the school. So although my school is closed, there's still children there because they have some sort of daycare service going on there. And they're taking every precautions they can to make sure that the children are safe and to make sure that the teachers are safe in the school environment. What I've heard on the mainland, especially Daegu, Daegu is like the epicenter. Is that what you call it? The epicenter of this whole virus. And the teachers there are currently on work from home. So they are pretty much working from home, or like a quarantine, because, the widespread in Daegu was just rapid. It was like, at one point it was like 600 patients plus a day. But right now in Korea, like I said, they're doing a phenomenal job. Everything is under control. I've heard from 2 friends of mine that live in Daegu, currently teachers with the government funded program. Although they do not have to go into school, they are working from home. They cannot, or they're not supposed to, leave their homes from, during the school hours. So during working hours, they're not supposed to leave their home. And I've heard that if, the school can check if they're actually staying home by checking their bank accounts or something like crazy like that. You know, they can check if, like, I don't know, if they can check. I don't know how someone can just check your bank account like that, but apparently they can. I don't know, on some type of spy thing. But yeah, I think that'll be pretty much the end of this video. I just kind of wanted to update my friends and update my family of how living life here has been. I would say I feel definitely 100% safe here in Korea. The government is doing absolutely everything possible they can. Also, they are providing free testing and free care for anyone that has contracted the coronavirus, no matter your status. So that's very important as well. No matter your visa status, no matter your status in this country, they will take care of you, because that's how serious they're taking it, free of charge. Like, it's free. And I'm luckily that my job gives me insurance as well, so I never had to worry about that to begin with. I don't feel threatened, like my life is in danger in any way. I feel quite comfortable still, because the Korean government has made me feel this way because of everything that they're doing. Korea has definitely been a good example for other countries to follow, and I really hope that everyone facing this kind of tragedy, I'll call it a tragedy because in some countries it's worse than others, that we all can get through this and we all take the precautions that we need in order to get through this as the world, you know. Everyone stay safe, and I'm all right. I feel all right, and everything is good on this end. So I'm just going to go ahead and end this video here. If you like this video, go ahead and please press the thumbs up button. If you're not already a subscriber, go ahead and slap the subscribe button. You already don't know what it is. It's your girl, Just Kimmy, and I'm out.